Hello everybody, welcome back. Hi, yeah, what's up? This happened. I haven't watched it yet. I came across it on Reddit, but I figured if there was anything that would be a good check-in. We covered Osmongold's stupid ass shit apology video. Non-apology video. Um, so I figured, it's been a while. I guess we could check in on him, see if he's actually improved. So far, first impression, not great. Uh, I don't wanna judge a video by its title. But this one is called "Ugly Female Leads in Video Games" in quotes. So I don't have high hopes, I guess is a way to put it. Um, his room is also still an absolute clusterfuck. So that looks like so far the cleaning his house thing was limited to his kitchen and his kitchen alone. But hey, maybe that was enough penance for saying genocide was fine. Whatever. Welcome to the internet, I guess. So, I don't have any other updates for you guys. I will be live doing Mert Mart on Twitch later. And I do have a Debate Hub is doing well, and we have Jeff Holiday coming on tomorrow. So come and join us for that. We're going to be talking about Dr. Phil. So let's. There's no more snow. There was snow yesterday, and now there is not snow. I hate global warming. All right, let's let's dive into this. I don't know what we're about to get. I'm assuming it has to do with like Ciri from The Witcher being announced as the new protagonist, and people calling her ugly, as well as there's another game coming out that's a Naughty Dog game that has a female lead, and people don't like that she is a not white, not like anime Asian, and doesn't have hair, like has shaved her head in the trailer. So as somebody who does shave their head and who needs to actually have part of it done, fuck off. So let's take a look.
Hi guys, it's me again, and today we're going to be talking about some drama. We're going to be discussing the new games that got announced at the Game Awards, and I watched the show. I thought it was great. I had a good time, but a lot of people didn't. And guess what? It's for the two main games that got announced there, The Witcher 4 and also Intergalactic. Now,
Yeah, Intergalactic was the one I was thinking of. I couldn't remember the name of it.
both of these games, I think, had a lot of discourse surrounding them, and we're going to talk about that discourse. And we're also going to talk about what that discourse implies with people that have become increasingly against and at war with reality. And this, every single time that reality hits them in the face, there are a lot of Twitter threads about it because people are not happy. And guess what? If you spend all day on the internet, you usually have a distorted view of what the world looks like. And even to a certain extent, I'm sure so do I, but it seems like these people are even worse than I am. So anyway, let's go ahead and...
I I mean, at least he acknowledged that he is equally as problematic for his time on the internet, but I don't know if, in light of his apology video where he was planning on taking a step back and not being so attached to the internet anymore, if this is necessarily a healthy direction, but, whatever, we'll see.
At the beginning, I want to talk about one thing before we get into either of the games, actually. Let's talk about subjective opinions. So anybody can not like or like a video game for whatever reason that they...
That's a tautology. Opinions are not objective. They can't. They are only subjective. That's why they are opinions. So it is a tautology to say a subjective opinion because all opinions are subjective by definition. Like by being what they are already subjective to begin with. So if you're going to have this conversation, I feel like we're already in the point where we need to define subjective and opinion, but you're allowed to have preferences and likes and dislikes. Yes, even if you didn't want to, I think you would be forced to, as part of the human experience. Um. Okay. All right. I apologize. Let's see what he has to say. This is a big subject, so I'm what.
either of the games, actually. Let's talk about subjective opinions. So anybody can not like or like a video game for whatever reason that they want. They don't have to justify this. They don't have to explain it. They don't have to debate it or argue it with anybody else. So if you do or you don't like any video game, you should never feel like you're obligated to defend that opinion or not, because it is your own subjective opinion and you have every right to it and nobody can take that away from you. So
I agree with that. If you don't like something or you do like something, you're not obligated to go and talk about it. You are, if you enter the discourse, then there is a social expectation that you are entering the social discourse. So if you just state something out loud, then it's reasonable for other people to say, well, why do you like that? And that's when you would want to start, engaging in the conversation. Sorry. But yeah. So yeah, I agree with this. I would go a step further and say, in fact, not only are you allowed to like and dislike things, you don't have a choice. You will like and dislike things, regardless, as long as it's something that you've experienced. So if you experience a game, you are bound to like it or dislike it. Welcome to being a human being. I don't know what to tell you.
I just want to make that very clear, because there have been so many people talking about how, oh, well, this person shouldn't be having this opinion. You shouldn't be saying this. You shouldn't care.
No, he's jumped the shark now. We've moved from you are not just having an opinion to yourself, you are now discussing and sharing your opinion. And as soon as you start discussing and sharing your opinion, you are entering the discourse where people will expect you to want to communicate about the thing you started the conversation about. If I come out and I say, I think this woman in this game is ugly, people are going to ask me why. If I say, actually, I think you're wrong, I think this character is quite lovely, people are going to ask me why. As soon as you go from having the opinion to expressing the opinion, particularly on the internet, yes, you are going to have to start justifying and saying and explaining. Now, that doesn't mean you're suddenly in a debate. You're having an opinion and stating that opinion does not mean you're entering debate space. But it does mean that people will expect you to continue the conversation you started. So, he's jumped from one thing to the other. So, Asmongold's subjective opinion is bad in my subjective opinion. Well, I agreed with one thing that he said. That we've moved on to another thing, but he's conflating two things so far.
About this. Well, guess what? Some people do. Too fucking bad. Anyway, let's talk about The Witcher 4. Now, The Witcher 4, The Witcher 3, one of the best-selling games in the last 10 years, had a male protagonist. The new game has a female protagonist. If you understand the story, which at least I kind of do, I understand at least enough of it to see why the new female protagonist is the one carrying on the story. Now, this, however, has caught a lot of people off guard, and it's frustrated a lot of people, because I think that there has been a growing trend that people are observing of genres and different IPs that have had a male lead that's being replaced by a female lead. And I think also, this is, again, it goes into my first point about people being at war.
Never mind.
With reality, because I've got to tell you guys, gender is a massive barrier with relatability. It just is. And that doesn't mean that that's the case with everybody. I'm sure there's going to be people that, can't understand abstract ideas, so they have to comment and say, that's not what I think. Well, that's nice. But I think that in a general sense it is. I think gender is a massive barrier to relatability. So if you...
You don't... He just said that everybody's allowed to have their subjective opinions and they don't have to debate it or anything, and then he states it as subjective opinion and then tells anybody who disagrees with him and might engage in valuable discourse to go fuck themselves. What's the point of an opinion if you're not using it to communicate with other people? Like, what's the point of sharing? Is it oppression? Is it... Because that seems to be the only other option I can think of. I mean, I might be wrong. That might be a false dichotomy. I'm not trying to put these things against each other as the only options. I'm posing that I can't currently think of another option in the context of what Asmongold is saying, besides he just wants to be able to stay his opinion, and everybody else and their opinions can go fuck themselves regardless of what, like, I oh, okay. Go. What's your point? Uh, Gender is a barrier to relatability. I think for some people, yes, I can agree with that. I can, for the sake of discussion, I can agree that some people, and maybe a large number of those people are gamers, particularly white men in their 20s, have a really hard time being empathetic and being able to relate with anybody who isn't also a straight white man in their 20s. Hello, feline. Welcome. Yes, I can agree with what Osmongold is saying, with some caveats, but for the sake of discussion, sure. Let's all agree that gender is an issue of relatability in video games. Sure.
You take a character that people relate to and they can see themselves in, and you change its gender, you do fuck with a lot of people's vision of the game.
That doesn't apply to The Witcher. That's apples and oranges. The Witcher, excuse me. Geralt in The Witcher in 1 and 2 was very blank slatey kind of character. In 3, they gave him very much his own personality, very much. He was no longer like he's not like Link, right? So he is very distinct and very much his own character. Ciri is his adoptive daughter, of him and Yennefer, who is getting the passing of the torch. So he is not a character that you're supposed to necessarily project yourself onto as much as like another character. Now, you still can, but I'm not saying don't, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, or you can't. Just that he doesn't lend himself to like a Samus, right? Samus, for a very long time, was a blank slate of a character. That's why she had no Master Chief. The reason why Master Chief never shows his face, right? The Doom guy. You're supposed to, like, you're living a power fantasy through this character. Geralt in The Witcher 3 specifically is not like that. And so they're not when you pass the torch, you're not messing with the relatability that somebody had with this character, because they didn't change this character from a male to a female. They passed the torch from this character to this other well-established character that was narratively set up to happen. So for Osmongold to present this as if they are replacing Geralt with Femme Geralt is just not true. That's not accurate. It doesn't. No, this. I might understand what you're trying to say, but it does not apply to The Witcher. So, sorry, no, wrong, incorrect.
Game and of the story. I think that's just how it is, and you can disagree with that, but that doesn't mean.
So I don't actually necessarily disagree with that. I do think that if you take a character and you gender swap them, particularly if you were to do so midway through a story, it is going to change the way people relate to that character and the way people interpret that story. I can agree with that. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. Yeah, Witcher 4 as woke as The Last of Us? I don't know. We're gonna find out, I guess. But I don't disagree with his two things that he said. But he's correlating them and conflating them in a way that is not applicable. So I disagree with his conclusion because I think his opinion, subjective opinion, is based on a false premise or an incorrect premise. So I don't disagree with each thing in a bubble. Yes, I can agree that if you were to take a character and gender swap them in an upcoming game, that would be jarring for a number of players, and that is a decision that developers need to take. That is something that the developers need to take into account when they do that. Does it mean they can't do that or they shouldn't do that? It's contextual. Depends on the game. You change Pac-Man to Mrs. Pac-Man, I really don't think anybody cared. You know what I mean? So, like, right? So, on the other hand, though, it's if you say that gender is a barrier for people to relate to a character, I can also agree to that. The problem is none of that applies to The Witcher at all because they're not changing Geralt at all. Is staying Geralt. They're passing the torch to Ciri. So it's a different character, and it's a character that's already been well established throughout the series. And people enjoyed Ciri. Like, it's not like she was like some bum ass nobody likes this character and now we're making you play as her. No, it's a well established badass fucking Witcher. Like, it's I don't okay.
Mean that you're that doesn't mean it's going to go away. I think it is very, very, very much the truth. And so a lot of people are unhappy about this. And they also thought that Ciri is uglier because if you compare her model in game for The Witcher 4, for The Witcher 3, and then you look at The Witcher 4, she does look a bit older, and it's a CGI trailer, so there's a lot more detail put into it. It looks more real.
I was about to say, is it because she looks older? Okay, if your opinion about how attractive someone is based on whether or not they're a child, I think you have a different different problem on your hands. Hi, Unstred, good to see you. I had this discussion with someone the other day about woman being a lesbian in the new Indiana Jones game, and it should not have been there, but that by itself already made it woke. Oh, that was their opinion. Oh, okay. Well, well, this is to quote Osmongold from a second ago. Just because you ignore it doesn't mean or you dislike it doesn't mean it's gonna go away. Just because you don't like lesbians or you only like your lesbians in your porn, it does not mean that lesbians will stop existing in the world whether you like them or not. Sorry? Too bad. I think what Osmongold said was get over it. Like, but yeah, if your line in the sand is that Ciri looks older and so therefore she's not hot anymore, you might have a different problem on your hands and also incredibly misogynistic. Just say no. As if the only value to a woman or a female character is whether or not you personally, subjectively, find them attractive. So if we wanted to throw Osmongold's argument back in his face here, we would say, but attractiveness is subjective, and you just said, keep that shit to yourself. So.
Realistic. Now, my personal opinion, I have actually personally dated a Polish girl with a big nose. So I think that she's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else does. If you think she...
What? How old was Ciri in The Witcher 3? Let's find out. Ciri, Witcher 3. Oh, yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, I spilled tea all over my keyboard last Mart session, and you may recognize this click. Anybody who's been around me for a while might recognize this big old clickety-clack going on. Let's see, Ciri was born in 1252 or 1253, and most likely during the Beltian holiday. Blah, 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 blah. Height 5'9", eyes green, hair color ashen gray. Do we have an age? Okay, well, if she was born in 12... Okay, write down 1252 or 1253, and I'm going to find out what year it is in The Witcher 3. Where does The Witcher 3 storyline take place? Timeline for The Witcher. Oh god. Geralt was born in 839. We gotta go past 12. What did I say, 1252? I don't remember what I said. Yeah, 1252, Ciri's great-great-great-grandmother died at the age of 93. Um, I don't know, like, oh god, this timeline is too. Hold on, this is too much. I just want to know when the game takes place. Serious 2021 and 3. Okay, thank you. I'll take your word for it. She's in her early 20s. I was gonna say she's somewhere between 18 and 22, but I didn't know for sure, so thank you.
She's ugly, you don't want to play the game because of that, that's fine, that's whatever. I personally don't think so, and I think that CD Projekt Red has earned.
Oh, sorry. I had an existential crisis and forgot that Osmongold just dropped an absolute bomb on our heads that needs unpacking. That is his he dated a Polish girl with a large nose, therefore he thinks Ciri, the video game character, is fine, and that somehow he's using that he dated a Polish woman with a large nose is his justification for not being critical of Ciri from The Witcher. Uh okay, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't unpack that. Maybe we acknowledge that that is a problem, but and talk about how that's already kind of weird and misogynistic on its own. I don't know why you have to throw shade at your ex-girlfriend randomly in your videos that have 642,980 views. But you know, K. Yeah, I think that justification is stupid. Am I allowed to have my subjective opinion? I don't know. Osmongold is trying to tell us which subjective opinions you're allowed to have and which ones you're not.
Earned a degree of my trust with how well they've handled Cyberpunk and also The Witcher 3 that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to really, really hope that the game is in fact actually good. So
They made Ciri the main protagonist, and you're like, this is a test of my faith. What? What? You don't think that's a little bit dramatic? They did the natural passing of the torch from Geralt to Ciri, which it didn't come out of left field. It narratively follows. It makes perfect sense. He even agreed that it made perfect sense at the beginning of the video. But he's gonna like hold out hope and I'm gonna trust them that this game will actually be good. And the other half of that sentence is even though it has a female protagonist. Like, what are you Ciri is literally his adopted daughter. Yeah, yes, 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 she is. And she's also one of the first women witchers in known history. Um, so, you know. Fuck, dude.
we'll have to wait until we see her in-game model and we see a little bit more of the story before I go ahead and start complaining and crying about this all too much.
So you are basing whether or not you like or want to play the game based on whether or not you can jack off to Ciri. And whether or not being older than 20 is too old for you. Women are objects for storytelling. Yes, Chloe, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Bro, sir, what are you doing? So in light of this so far, how are we feeling about Osmongold's apology video? Because I wasn't too impressed, and this is my follow-up to be like, well, let's check in on him. It's been like a month or two. Not great. Not fucking great. Ugh.
There's that. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the growing issue with a lot of games that are adding characters that are unattractive, unappealing, and unlikable. And oftentimes it's all three, unfortunately, but many times it's in fact just one. And so
Alright, place your bets. Place your bets. Will he name a male character that has gone through this process? So he describes these three things. Unlikable, unattractive, and ugly, or whatever he said, which two of those are the same, maybe, I don't know. But do you think he'll name Any character that is not a woman.
So what's happened is that I think that a lot of studios have fallen prey to this idea that players and people want to have realistic characters. I don't actually think that this is true. I think that this is a media narrative that's created by journalists and it's created by people that write about video games, talk about them. But the truth is that I think most people, they actually do care about what a character looks like to an extent, and the people that don't care are irrelevant anyway, because
Oh, okay, so before he explains why other people's opinions, only his opinions are subjective opinions are relevant. Before we get into that, he's got a contradicting opinion here, right? First off, he said that um having a character like relatability is related to gender, and now he's saying that that doesn't matter. Kind of, right? It's almost like, well, relatability matters if you're a man, but if you're a woman, your just games just aren't made for you. And instead of like following through with his thought, he's jumped again to another topic, and this other topic is video games and their like whether or not they look realistic. And again, we're back to in a bubble. I might agree with that. I might say, yeah, you know what? Video games need to be are a visual based storytelling medium. So whether or not a game is ugly, that might be intentional, right? So like for example, Bloodborne is gothic Victorian Lovecraftian horror. So a lot of it is ugly and grotesque and violent and gory, and it is a absolutely gorgeous game. Bloodborne is one of the greatest games that has ever been made, but it relied on being visually appealing in its storytelling, but that appeal is coming from it being grotesque and ugly, at least part of it. So like for example, another game that like visually holds up because like how well the art direction is Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo looks so good and plays so well even all of these years later because of its visuals. It's got relatively straightforward gameplay. Its visuals look fantastic and amazing, and people love and play it to this fucking day. Bloodborne mentioned a hunter must hunt. Let's go. Aesthetics are less important than gameplay, kind of. So it's at the end of the day, at least in my opinion, you kind of need both, right? You need to have gameplay and you need to have good visual storytelling. You can get away with less of one or the other as long as the other one makes up for it, right? So you can't be down here and be here. Like if your gameplay is this bad and your game looks like this, you're not going to be able to pull that off. But if you're balancing these things, you'll be fine, right? So people will play a game that's Yoshi's Island crying baby mechanic needs to be modded out. That crying baby is the best and worst thing ever, and I love every second of it. Like that is so intentional. It is to punish you because they're like that's how it works. And a sense of urgency, and you want it to stop. In that case, as a mechanic, it worked perfectly as intended. Right? Is another example would be Octopath. I would give is Octopath Traveler, which is a modern game but uses pixels as an art form. Yeah, exactly. And so, as much as what Asmongold is saying is, I would agree with this, but he's gonna come. I might agree with the concept, but I'm gonna end up disagreeing with his opinions or his conclusion. So let's see why the people who don't have the same opinion as him are irrelevant.
let's go ahead and use a little bit of logic. So why would you ever put a ugly character in a video game? Well, I think that this serves.
I'm sorry, he just brushed them off and said they were devoid of logic. Is that, sorry, did I understand that correctly? Sorry, I just
want to have realistic characters. I don't actually think that this is true. I think that this is a media narrative that's created by journalists and it's created by people that write about video games, talk about them. But the truth is that I think most people, they actually do care about what a character looks like to an extent, and the people that don't care are irrelevant anyway. Because let's go ahead and use a little bit of logic. So why would you ever put a ugly character in a video game? Well, I think that this serves no one. I don't think it serves anybody. Because
Why would you put an ugly character in a video game? Why? Okay, why is the pig in Bloodborne? Most of the, a lot of the characters in Bloodborne are not pretty people. Is Mario pretty? Is Bowser pretty? Is Mother Brain pretty? So he thinks Wario is hot. Wario? I mean, Ganondorf. Matt Mercer's Ganondorf. In Tears of the Kingdom? I don't know. I don't know about that one. The doll is hot. Waluigi. Listen, hear me out. We stand, like, wait. We stand Waluigi. Like, what do you mean? Why would you have an ugly character? You do realize, like, we all realize that, like, the majority of the population is not, like, supermodels, right? And if visual representation, like he mentioned earlier about gender, is a big part of relatability, then would not having characters and main characters and off characters that are different body types be valuable to the players? No. Orphan? Yeah. Monster fucker's heavy breathing. This is a nonsense thing to say. Like, tell me you don't understand about, like, anything about visual storytelling. Like, anything about... What, does he want everybody to look like they're from a JRPG? Because, like, not all of the... Kefka? Kefka's, like... I mean, Kefka's got some stuff working for him, but, you know... And I'm again, we're back to beauty is subjective. It's a subjective opinion, so not everybody is going to find the same things attractive. Oh yeah, all the Pokemon are hot. Osmongold wants to bang Giovanni. Confirmed. It is a false dichotomy, yes. You're absolutely correct, Black Spider, yes. 100%. Good call out.
Because for all the people that don't care whether the character looks good or not, well, then those people are going to play or not play the game anyway. And
that's also a misnomer too, because like looks like is physically attractive to you, and looks appealing are different things, right? Or like looks good in the game, because there's a big difference between like I said, Yoshi's Island is not about it's a good looking game and it's very pretty, not because anything in there is physically attractive, right? It has nothing to do with whether or not it's physically attractive. It has to do with it being visually appealing, because things can be visually appealing when they are in the right place, doing and showing and telling what they're supposed to do and show and tell, right? So, again, we can go back to Bloodborne as an example. Again, Bloodborne is a very visually appealing game. Not because it's pretty, not because you find it attractive. I'm sure there are things in the game, individual things that you can find within the game that you might find physically or romantically attractive, or conventionally attractive. But on the other hand, that part of that and part of the storytelling, visual storytelling of that, is the juxtaposition between those conventionally attractive things and all of the monsters literally everywhere, all of the time. So, like, having things be unattractive or having flaws on purpose is important. Look at Arcane. The visuals in Arcane almost none of the I don't think there's a single character in that show that does not have flaws, like physical visual flaws in their character design. Their faces are not fully symmetrical. They have scars. They have everybody except for Victor. All right, listen, Victor is best boy. We stand Victor. There's no flawless, perfect. Mwah. Aesthetic is great. That's different from pretty. Yes, we're back to Asmongold is taking a complicated subject and dumbing it down and distilling it down to the point of dishonesty and then conflating different shit, right? And like conflating different problems. Oh, hey there, welcome. So when you start conflating things like that, it's he's not making a lucid or logical point here. He's just throwing spaghetti at a wall, and these points are not cohesive.
And the reasoning for that is going to be completely independent of the character's appearance. And for the people that are going to play a game or do care about a character's appearance, and they use that as a criteria of whether they like the character or not. And by the way, a lot of people say that people don't do this. If people didn't do this, microtransaction cosmetics would not be making billions of dollars, okay? Like, this is just such a completely stupid, delusional thing to say. They would not be able to sell all these cosmetics if people did not care about how they looked in video games. So, that being said, and there's a million other...
I see your point. I understand what you're trying to say. I get that you've made this as an aside point, so I will also leave it as an aside point and say, yeah. I don't think so.
Examples I can use, like gacha games, etc. But I think that let's just look at cosmetics as a meta thing, and then that immediately proves that people do care. Maybe you don't, but again, abstract sample, there are many people who do. And for the people who do care, I do think that having a character that is unappealing, unlikable, or just in general not something that people want to see, that's just unrelatable. I think that's another really component. Not necessarily what people don't want to see, but just in one way or another unrelatable. I think
again, I would point out that Wario has his own game. Like, people don't only relate to things that Asmongold finds physically attractive. I think that's a pretty easy statement. Look at any character roster in any fighting game.
I think this serves literally zero purpose. And in fact, all it does is it serves to hurt the game. So let me explain why. Again, so you have all the people who are, they don't care about the way the character looks. They don't give a shit about it. They're going to...
I'm just going to pause for a second because Juma in the chat seems very upset. Can I help you? Are you okay? You seem a little distracted. Is it my haircut? I know I haven't shaved in a while. You seem to be confused about a good number of things, though. But I'll let chat have their fun with you. But I'm gonna continue on.
Going to play the game based off of the gameplay. Well, they've already made their decision, and the way the character looks, stated by them, is that they don't care. So then you only...
there's a difference between, like, caring and not, like, you don't have to, again, we're back to a dichotomy. You do not have to be one or the other. You can be like, well, I think she's fine, so I'm gonna play and like or dislike the video or the game based on, like, it's fine. It doesn't bother me. Like, the way she looks is fine. It's not that they don't care. If she was unappealing in a way that was detrimental to the gameplay, then you might have a different conversation on your hands. But again, as you are fucking conflating this, there you go.
We have the remaining people who do...
Tell you what, Juma, come back at a Q&A video and we'll chat.
Care about how a character looks. Now, do you think that more people care if a character is attractive or unattractive? Do you think that more people want a character inside of the group of people who care about the way a character looks? Are there more people inside of that group that want the character to be attractive or unattractive? Well, I'm just going to take the wild guess and think that they probably should think that the character should be hot. That's it. And this is also true for guys as well.
It's not exactly a logical and reasoned argument if you're just taking a wild guess. And again, it's not exactly a reasonable position to take if you say, when you already say that people and relatability is reliant on gender. And now you're saying it's also reliant on attractiveness. Right? So if it's based on those two things, women play games? So, and if you're going to say, well, the majority of people who play games are men, then you have to start talking about, okay, well, why is that? Is it because it's an inherently misogynistic place and has been for a very long time that has forced women out? And why, and if we accept that that is the case, as it is, if we accept that that's the case, why wouldn't a video game industry want to make money by appealing to more groups of people and larger groups of people? I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but these loud people who dislike Ciri because she's not a 20-year-old fuckable lolly is less of a number than the number of men who aren't going to care or think she's just fine, and then enabling women to play the game as well through Asmongold's logic from the beginning. So, too bad. Feline says, my personal opinion is that the over-exaggerating of body features is less aesthetically pleasing than a somewhat more reasonable body features. Like if a woman is like an hourglass and has big breasts. I think that there's a difference between, like, again, aesthetically pleasing to try to be sexually attractive. Sex sells, right? I think we can all agree with this. So having a sexually attractive character, and this character is directed to attract your main player base, makes sense. But why, if the issue is relatability, then you should want male characters, period. At least from what Asmongold's trying to say here. But now he's saying that female characters are fine just as long as they're hot enough. Why? Because all these game men want to LARP as hot supermodel women? Like, I don't, like, we've gone so far around the loop here that I don't understand what he's trying to say anymore. He's making these individual points, but none of them are actually tied together in any kind of a cohesive point or argument or even thought like, there's no connecting point, right?
I don't really think that anybody wants to play, well, maybe some people do. Many people probably don't want to play a version of a fat neckbeard brony wearing a fedora with a My Little Pony t-shirt with cargo pants and socks and sandals on, and this guy is going to be the one who saves the world from God, right? He's going to
I mean, that depends on the context of the game. If the game makes sense and that follows and tracks, there are lots of games that have to do with this loser nobody saving the world. If you want to visually represent them as an awful person, which is what you're seeming to try to imply, then you would have to have a story and gameplay that is then cohesive with the person growing as an individual to become not this awful person. What? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that was weirdly specific. Did anybody else find that weirdly specific?
have to destroy God. Many people probably would not really relate with that character, and they'd rather have somebody like Clive from Final Fantasy XVI. And so this...
There's a big... Final Fantasy is a fantasy. Yes, if you put, like, some unfortunate soul that is a seemingly a bad person that nobody likes, and you drop them into a Final Fantasy game, yeah, they're gonna feel a little bit out of place. You know what I mean? So the aesthetic and visual appeal of the game is going to be thrown out of balance because you've just taken something that is completely not applicable and thrown it in. Like, how do you think games are made? They just are like, oh, hot guy, oh, hot girl, let's save the world. Like, what are you talking about?
This is true cross-gender, but it's also another big issue, what I was saying before, about people that are living in opposition.
Yeah, what good point, Ape. What is fucking Mario? Mario is a plumber from New York who fell down a pipe and is going to go save the princess. Like, Mario of his time would basically be the neckbeard, right? Right? Would he not? Like, that falls in line with what Asmongold is trying to say, doesn't it? Like, what about Crash Bandicoot? Like, Crash Bandicoot isn't an conventionally attractive character. He's a Dorito. He's a Dorito on crack. Like, what are you talking about? That is not what I'm saying at all, Alex. I just, what the fuck?
To reality. A lot of people are in the mindset that these things are not relevant. These things do not matter. And again, they don't matter to a lot of people, but they matter to a.
Well, actually, I think I'm addressing his points pretty one-to-one, but Juma, for example, for deflecting would be a detraction, like bringing up a completely irrelevant and also incorrect statement about dogs and chocolate. That would be pretty fucking stupid, don't you think? That'd be pretty fucking deflecty. Little bit detracting, don't you think? So if you want to engage in the conversation, that's fine. You're welcome to stay. But if you want to keep trying to deflect and detract instead of actually engaging with the topic, I'll gonna have to time you out.
Enough people for this to make a difference. And I also hear the narrative that these are things.
Oh shit, I just don't understand Mario. Ah, fuck, ass. No, not the 100 levels of Mario, no! We can have a conversation about dogs and chocolate at some point, because there's a lot more to it than I think people understand, but I don't know if there's much of a point, because the people who don't understand are usually people that are trying to not understand on purpose. It's actually very obvious. Have you not seen Crash Bandicoot? He's a fucking Dorito. Have you not seen that, man? Hold on. Crash Bandicoot. Look at this guy. Let me get you a picture, an image of Crash Bandicoot. Look at this, dude. I'll grab an original. Oh, hold on. Here, I'll grab, like, old school Crash Bandicoot, right? And then I'll grab, like, the updated. Like, this is what he looked like. Whoops. That's all. Hold on. Give me the image. Here you go. This is what he was shown to look like on the thing. Look at him. He's a fucking orange triangle. He's a fucking Dorito. Oh, look at him. Look at this man. He's a fucking Dorito. He's a spinning Dorito on crack. Look at this triangle ass. Oh, wonderful. Look at him. Look at him. I loved Crash. He's so funny. Alright. Sorry, let me put him back so we can see what he was saying.
So this is true cross-gender, but it's also another big issue, what I was saying. Of a fat neckbeard brony wearing a fedora with a My Little Pony t-shirt with cargo pants and socks and sandals on, and this guy is going to be the one who saves the world from God, right? He's going to have to destroy God. Many people probably would not really relate with that character, and they'd rather have somebody like Clive from Final Fantasy XVI.
Feline brings up a point and says, there's this one game where the main character is literally a square, Minecraft. Yeah, that's a character you're supposed to project onto, right? You're supposed to project onto Steve. He doesn't have a character. Now, the world of Minecraft has definitely expanded in its storytelling, and it's used its gameplay and its updates to expand that storytelling, but it's the storytelling of the world, not the storytelling of Steve. And it's the storytelling of the builders, but not of Steve. Steve doesn't have a character. Now, there are other games that he has some characterization in, but it is not main Minecraft. Another good example, Cubert. And another example, Snake. Another example, you ever played Geometry Dash? Is the cube a character? He's Jack Black. You want a bag of Doritos? Oh man, sorry.
And so this is true cross gender, but it's also another big issue, what I was saying before, about people that are living in opposition to reality. A lot of people are in the mindset that these things are not relevant. These things do not matter. And again, they don't matter to a lot of people, but they matter to enough people for this to make a difference. And I also hear that.
But you said that to not listen to them anyway. Like, it doesn't really matter. And on the other hand, whether or not it matters is a subjective opinion, right? That's your subjective opinion. But you're saying it matters enough to change to make a difference? Is it going to make a difference? Are they going to change Ciri's model? No, that's not going to happen. They're not going to capitulate to, like, no. That's not going to happen. Will they make adjustments? Will it look different by the time it actually comes out from the CGI cinematic that they played? Probably, yeah. That's usually how it works. How about Soul Reaver? Has anybody ever played Soul Reaver? You want to talk about attractive characters? Raziel? Anybody? No? The Legacy of Kain? Oh, good God. Like,
The narrative that these are things that are only held by a small minority of people. Only a small minority of people actually think this. And I have a challenge to everybody who thinks that. If you think that all of the people that dislike whatever game it is, whether I think the Intergalactic game is probably the one that's most worst received, I want you to find me a reveal trailer of a video game that has a less than 50% like ratio that turned out to be a success for a studio.
okay, so he wants people to find, sorry, I just want to make sure I get this right, a gameplay trailer with a 50% or less like ratio that was a success. Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Yeah. Yep. Chesh would totally bang Raziel when he was still a vampire. Listen, Smitty, I don't need you to attack me like that. Just because you're right doesn't mean you have to. They only have to be attractive if female. Well, what did I tell you? Did we not take bets earlier about whether or not he would name a single character that was not a female character? Of course not. All right, so I'll take up the challenge. We're looking for. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it off screen, but I want to write it down so I don't forget. Let me just make a note here. He wants. What did he say? The criteria is a 50% like ratio or less. 50% or less like ratio on a video game release trailer or reveal trailer. That the game did positively, right? That's what he said, that the game did well. I just want to make sure I get it correct.
I think the Intergalactic game is probably the one that's most worst received. I want you to find me a reveal trailer of a video game that has a less than 50% like ratio that turned out to be a success for a studio.
That turned out to be a success for the studio. So I have one question about this challenge. How do we correlate that the reveal trailer had an ugly person in it and that's the reason why? Because that could just be marketing, and that could be like a game being good and not selling well because of its marketing. There's like a lot more factors here than just that, right? And yeah, he didn't say on what platform. So I guess I'll have to go searching on what platform it needs to have that less than 50%. Um, I'm gonna take the or out because I'm gonna see if I can get less than 50%. But on the same time, there's another issue here too, right? How do yeah define success for a studio? That's a whole other issue. So like, yeah. How do you know? Like he's saying this all cocky and confident, but he's set up an impossible scenario because he hasn't actually set up parameters to show what he's talking about. Horizon Zero Dawn, yeah. Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn did not have. All right, well, I'll take a look and see what I can find. We'll talk about this more in the Discord and see what we can look at. But I've taken up his challenge for now, and I'll do a follow-up video.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's find out. And you know what? I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of them. I've looked for them, I've tried to find them, and I didn't see a single one. And so
I don't trust you to have done a good job.
So what I think is happening is that you have people that want to believe something so bad that it's caused them to distort reality into imagining that it's actually real. And so what's happened is that a lot of these people are so fixated around making sure that the game reinforces some worldview that they have that they are unwilling to look at the rational implications of what is actually something that players want to see. And
has there not been a handful of games and movies that were review bombed? So like Last of Us 2? Last of Us 2 was not well received and did fantastically. And was review bombed on purpose by people who were angry about the visual and representation of characters in that game. Does The Last of Us 2 not count? Like, Laura Bailey, if I remember correctly, received death threats over that game. Am I incorrect about The Last of Us 2? I might be am I misremembering that? Because I feel like that would be a really easy, like, not even that long ago game for an example of what he's talking about.
And this goes into the idea of genres. Now, I'm sorry, guys, but I guess I have to be the bearer of bad news. But if you're making a video game and it's set in space, you're a bounty hunter, you've got guns, and you fight things with laser swords, the majority audience of that game is going to be a bunch of fucking guys. And that's it.
Why? You don't think women like running around in space shooting laser beams? Why would the majority of that be men?
So if you make a game like that and you don't appeal to that target audience, you are going to have a very hard time selling that game. And it doesn't matter whether you think this should be true or not, or whether you know somebody who isn't part of that group, who is a girl or whatever, who likes these games, or a guy who doesn't like them. That's totally...
You mean like a Polish girlfriend with a large nose? No? Alright.
fine, but I think that the averages speak for themselves. You can look at games like Concord, Dragon Age Veilguard, or any of the other games that have come out recently that have tried to take a non-traditional approach in telling a story that is meant for a majority male audience. And I think that guess what happens? When that happens, well, a lot of people get frustrated, disappointed, and they think to themselves, you know what? I don't think this game's meant for me. I'm not going to play it. And
I will check Discord. Where am I looking in Discord? Oh, yo, you mean you found it already? You mean I was absolutely 100% right about The Last of Us 2? What? 0 likes, 58,732 dislikes. Last of Us 2 official story trailer PlayStation 4. Oops! I guess Asmongold didn't look very hard, did he? Good job, you've completed the challenge. How does this have 0 likes? That can't be right. Where did you find this? I want a citation. Where did you find that? Side note. I know an entire community full of women that love running around in space games and shooting things. Yeah, go figure. So here's the thing. Where is he getting these averages from? What did he say? He said specifically Dragon Age, right? Dragon Age Conquest? Let's see if we can get the information of the player base. Alright. Here we go. Dragon Age Origins sees a major play. Well, he said Conquest, didn't he? Dun, 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 dun. Nah, this is the. I think this is the wrong game. Hold on. Dragon Age Veilguard. What did he say? Which one did he say? He said Dragon Age, though, right? Let's see. Dragon Age player base male to female ratio. Let's see if it exists. It's also not a space game, so let's see. Dragon Age gender stat skewed. 68% male, 32% female according to this. This is from 2015. Okay, so this is from 2015. This is the wrong thing. This is way too long ago. Let's see if we can find something else. Dragon Age Inquisition. Dragon Age Veilguard. Let's see what Veilguard says. Da, 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 da. Nope. Maybe we can find. Let's try Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate seems like it has a really good grasp on its stats. Baldur's Gate 3 player stats. Da-da-da, Larian. Do we have male to female players? Top 3 Origins, Asterion, Gale, Shadowheart. Top class picks, Paladin to Cleric, Elf to Halfling. Oh, so wait, hold on. Paladins. Top 3 classes per race, Dwarves, Paladins. So the majority of players are playing Dwarves? Because, like, look at how much the Paladin skews. I guess Dwarf is down here, though. Elves, where are the elves? Right here? No, Drow, Elf, Rogue, Ranger, Druid. And then Rogue, Ranger, Druid. Oh, man. These are really, actually, these stats are interesting. 658,000 players had sex with Halsin. Alright, Asmongold, what are your stats on males playing games and dudes playing games fucking Halsin? How does that apply? That's so funny. You think the like counter is broken? Boo, bald women exist. Yeah, Flaff, that's basically what he's saying. Yeah. Women can shave their heads too. Go figure. 1.9 million players were turned into a cheese wheel. What does that say about, like, relatability? uh, uh, Wonderful. Well, I don't know what averages he's talking about, but it looks like we completed his challenge. Let me see if I can find the Last of Us trailer. Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. You actually got the stat. The stat on likes to dislikes is 1.4k likes and with the dislike ratio, it's 5.9. So that is over 50%. Or sorry, yeah, that is a less than 50% like ratio. And that game did well. Shave my head to appeal to the Smitty demographic. I don't think I'm going to shave my whole head. Let's see. The like ratio on the direct Last of Us trailer on this one on the PlayStation is why can't I see that? Why can't I see the like number? I can't see the like number on this. Do you have a screenshot of this one? I don't have the plugin. That's why I'm relying on Feline here. It could be a fan-made trailer, or it could be a re-release. People will post stuff that's not theirs. But I can't see the like to dislike ratio on the PlayStation official one. With the plugin, you saw no change.
And that's what happens. And so I feel like, how many points on a graph do you need to be able to draw a line? I think that
Any. Provide us any points on any graph would be a start. Please, thank you.
it's very obvious that these things clearly do matter a lot to players, and this is not enough of a small minority for it not to be taken seriously. And also, I think that the implication is that a minority of people actually care about these things, whereas I think the actual reality is that a majority of people do. It's just that the amount of people that dislike it on social media might be a little bit higher, but it is more or less a respective sample size. Because I've never really seen a case, as I said before, where a game was massively hated on, like the release.
I don't think it'd be a good idea to use current Twitter, currently known as X, as a sample size for anything. Because of how like much that website has fallen apart and what's gone on within the last year or two, I really disagree with the idea of even using it as a source for like that kind of a thing, because it's not going to actually be representative for the obvious reasons in that the site has been imploding on itself for like the past year and a half. So I do not think you would get a very good sample size.
Reveal trailer, and then it turned out to be a massive success. I just don't really think this happens. First impressions are really important, and it matters a lot if you make them or not. And so a lot of developers are trying to design games and make games for everybody. They're trying to make the game for the target audience of anybody can play this game, it's going to appeal to everyone. Well, unless you're playing Tetris or you're playing some other sort of abstract game like that, this is just simply not the case. There are going to be games that are more appealing to men versus games that are more appealing to women. The same as there's music that way, the same as there's, movies that way, manga that way. I mean, manga, they do it right. They literally have names for it. Shonen is literally made for young guys. So that's basically the way that they handle it, and I think that they're doing a lot better than comic books now, last time I checked. So the
I think, again, we're back to, I think we're a little bit being... we're dulling it down and distilling something to the point where it's like not accurate anymore. Shonen being for boys has been changing over the last few years. Like these lines are blurring. So I think to try to appeal to everybody is a mistake, and I think the video game industry, along with some movie studios, movies not as much, have started to diverge and move away from that. Video games in particular, I think, have done it more than movies have, where they're just trying to appeal to everybody, and when you try to appeal to everybody, you don't really satisfy anyone. So I think that has changed quite a bit in games, where they might be trying to appeal to more people or to different people that are not these caustic, volatile, angry, yelly men on the internet.
big issue is that people are trying to design and create a narrative that is based off of a worldview that doesn't actually exist. And what's happening is that you see games like Intergalactic and you see games like Concord or Dragon Age or whatever, where they are designed with this perspective that, well, anybody can relate to anybody. And of course, this can be true to an extent, but it's not true on a law of averages. And I think that that's what's really happened, is that you have people that have convinced themselves and gaslighted themselves into thinking that the only way that you can make this game and make it successful is if you make it appeal to everybody, but in the case of appealing to everyone, you actually, in fact, appeal to no one at all. Just
Tell me about Undertale. And tell me about Five Nights at Freddy's. Or do indie games not count? And when you played the first Five Nights at Freddy's, did you know that the character you were playing as in Five Nights at Freddy's was a girl or a boy? In Undertale, is the character a girl or a boy? When you play Pokemon, are you a girl or are you a boy?
like Concord did. Just a second, take a drink. So, what I think is going to happen is that these games are going to come out. The reception around them is going to become more negative. Indie games will not sell well. And I think this has been proven time and time again. And ultimately, for all the people that like good gameplay, they're not going to care about this. That's totally fine. But I think that there are enough people out there that also, there's another component to this as well, is that when people view or they perceive some degree of like messaging or they perceive some degree of like social politics in a video game, it immediately takes them out of the immersive experience the game is trying to create, and it makes them think about the game in the context of real life contemporary social politics. And
it can, if it's done poorly. Or if people are being hypersensitive about it or looking for it in their game on purpose because they have a bias when they go in to look at or play games, which you might say would come from journalism or from people who are looking for games to be angry at for YouTube content.
And I think this destroys the escapism, and it makes people more skeptical and less, positive about these video games in a general way. And I think also this happens with movies and TV shows as well, but in a lot of cases it just happens with video games the most because that's what I talk about the most. But
you experience it the most from video games. I know that's not what you said. I know that's what you meant. Video games fought really hard to be labeled and be considered art. Art is commentary. Art reflecting reality, reality reflecting art, etc., etc., etc. Right? Art holding up a mirror to what's going on in real life. We've gone to don't put politics in my video game about politics. You don't think there was social commentary in The Witcher 3? Because there was a lot of that in The Witcher 3. A lot. You don't think there's social commentary in the Dragon Age games? Do you not think there's social commentary in Bloodborne? There is absolutely social commentary in Bloodborne. A lot of it. In fact, a lot of it's about women and about the burden of childbirth. And the burden of forced childbirth, specifically. Bloodborne. What do you think the blood in Bloodborne is? What is this Luke pissworm fucking... So basically, we've gotten to Asmongold doesn't know what art is. Okay.
Anyway, with a lot of these characters, anytime that I see a character that's added into a video game and the character is not attractive or the character is meant to be unappealing to a majority of people, or it's not, it's like doing one of those things where it's like, oh, well, all the people that don't like this are bigots or racist or something like that. You can call people that all you want, but that's never going to convince them to buy your game. And I think that the people that do that,
Why do you think that they are trying to convince these people to buy their game? There's been more than one video game developer or director that has come out and said, "You're a bigot, fuck you, and no, I don't want you to buy my game." Again, we're back to how are you measuring success? Is success based on how much money the studio made? Or is success based on how much your players enjoyed your game, or what impact your game has left on a community? Or is it some combination of all those things?
anytime I see that in a trailer, I automatically assume the game is going to be complete trash. And you
See? This is him undermining his point from the beginning. That's why he said, "Oh, I'm going to trust them, and I'm going to pray that they're going to put out a good game." They didn't just add Ciri in just now. She's been there for a while. She's been around. She's a recognized character. So I was not out of line when I inferred and understood that what he was saying was that even though they made Ciri the main character because she's a woman. Yeah. Thanks for making my point, I guess.
You think to yourself, what do you mean? Like, that just means the character's ugly. Like, who cares? What about the gameplay? Let me think about it like this. If making an ugly character, as we've already established, actually is at best a negative or a net zero effect, and in almost...
Okay, first off, you didn't establish that, you just stated that as if it were true. I don't agree with that statement. I think that's stupid. And I think I was able to demonstrate how that was not true by listing off not sexually, visually appealing characters that are well-established, well-known characters that are also beloved. Again, Waluigi comes to mind, but go on.
Like this. If making an ugly character, as we've already established, actually is at best a negative or a net zero effect, and in almost all cases a negative effect, why would anybody do that? And I think that the mindset of putting things into a game that players actively don't like, that is more important than the actual enjoyment of the customer, I think that that mindset is going to permeate the entire game. I don't think that it's just going to begin and end at character selector or at character creation. I think it's going to be the entire game is going to have problems because it is fundamentally at face value, literally at face value, not designed for an audience. And
I'm sorry, did he say character creation? If you made the character, then the person who made them ugly was you. Fucking... Huh? Breaking, they gender swapped the new Indiana Jones game and called it Tomb Raider. Oh, Icarus point. If you don't like how the commentary... Oh, yeah, no, we got a hater, guys. Oh, no. Whatever we're gonna do. He said it, therefore it is established. I mean, if we take his point at face value, right? And let's pretend he did, right? Let's hypothetically say that we agree, for the sake of argument, we agree that, not appealing characters, not visually appealing characters are inherently bad for a game. Why would anybody do that? Well, it could be unintentional, for one. It could be that because all of these opinions are subjective, it's simply not appealing to you. And I think we've already established that that is true. And Asmongold agrees with that. So there's that. That the game isn't directed for you. You are not the core audience. So you are not the person they're trying to appeal to. Right? So that's fine. So that would be a reason why. Third off the top of my head, I could think of that maybe the game is trying to do something different and trying to be innovative and do something new. And so they're using a style that you personally do not find attractive. The end. Wow, look, I found 3 reasons that are valid reasons that make sense. Even within his flawed framework. Grossly flawed framework, if I may say. Didn't people heavily criticize Alloy from HZD and it still sold well? Yes.
I feel like I've been right a lot. I do. I really feel like, so I see people getting mad about this, especially getting mad at me. I'm just saying, boys, let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. I wonder if the thing that's happened every single time is going to happen again. Oh, wow. I don't even know what to say.
Okay, so what are you saying you think is going to happen? Are you saying that you think The Witcher 4 will not sell well? Or are you saying that you don't think Intergalactic is going to be a good game? Because he hasn't actually made a statement, right? Like, he hasn't actually said what his prediction is or what he's going to be right about. So, is that what you're saying? So, because, I mean, we can check to see if you're going to be right. This guy is a goof. Yes. Yes, he is. He's also racist. He's also a misogynist. He is also pro-genocide. So, like I said, I wanted to check in on him after reviewing his god-awful fucking non-apology video, which I ripped to absolute shreds as it deserved. And then I was like, well, you know, maybe he actually means it and he's going to start changing the way he views things and clean his house. He didn't. The room is still a fucking mess. He's still an asshole. And his logic is still about worse than you could find at the bottom of a box of crackers.
It's amazing. Yeah, well, I don't know. The suspense is killing me. I wonder if the game that everybody seems to hate is going to come out and be hated. And so people have been...
Okay, so he thinks The Witcher 4 is not going to be... is not going to be successful. Alright? So we will check when it releases. Will Witcher 4 be successful? I made a note. I think he is grossly incorrect. I think The Witcher 4 will do just as well as The Witcher 3, if not better. People are excited for Ciri.
Increasingly walling themselves off inside of their own echo chambers and trying to create their own reality. And I think this is the reason why people want censorship on social media a lot. The reason why is because these realities that they create are very, very fragile. And so the moment...
Yeah. Yeah. Weedy Maximus, you're right. There's a lot of fucking cope coming from this fucking video. Jesus Christ. Just because he doesn't want to jerk off to Ciri.
The moment that one of these realities actually, butts up against an actual, the real world, a real experience, well then...
I'm sorry, I thought he wanted not real experiences in his video games. So should he not be applauding the people that are separating those two things from each other? Can you make up your mind?
These people are going to be writing posts and talking and complaining about it and saying, oh, we'll do better next time. The reality is that a lot of people don't think that way. And I think that you've had the internet that's allowed so many people to effectively remove themselves from reality and construct their own in place of it. And Good
God, the projection in this video is getting distracting.
Video game discourse is a very good microcosm of that, but you're seeing this with politics, you're seeing this with, like geopolitics, you're seeing it with social issues, you're seeing it with everything. And people have become increasingly more disconnected from reality because the internet has allowed them to do that. And it actually does a really good job at that. And so what I think is going to keep happening is that these people will continue butting up against reality and becoming very, very frustrated and upset. And I think it's very funny because I also believe they will never learn. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. I think Witcher 4, we're going to have to wait and see. I think with Intergalactic, the game, as I said, the graphics for the game look incredible, but I don't really think the game's going to do very well. You make a space bounty hunter video game, and you have like a bald girl who isn't conventionally attractive. I don't think you're really going to get that male audience that those games are really intended for. I don't think you're going to get them. And so we're going to have to wait and see, but that's my prediction.
Samus was a woman! Decades ago! A space bounty hunter with guns! Are you fucking serious? Oh my god, what a bitch. He's such a fucking crybaby. Good lord. And he's being a crybaby, but he's not willing to commit to it, which is kind of even worse. Lukewarm take. That's trying to be a harder take. That's his prediction. Intergalactic isn't gonna do well because the character is a woman who is bald, and not enough men who play video games that have space bounty hunters will like it, and obviously only men play those games, or the majority of men, the number of men that play those games is so grossly high that the game will therefore be unsuccessful. Although I would like to again point out, he has not defined what counts as success for a video game. So, as much as we already disproved his other challenge with The Last of Us 2, I do not think, although he states that he is right all the time, I suspect that that's not going to be. A bald woman cannot be attractive. Correct. I don't know, I guess. Metroid can't succeed unless they get that ugly armor off of Samus, right? Then why did they get so mad about... Because this is the same fucking group of people that got mad about Tomb Raider, right? Where they made Lara Croft more realistic looking instead of... And then men got mad because the triangle titties weren't big enough. Oh, God. Emma and Deadpool and Wolverine was hot as fuck in the movie, and Red Mage, bald woman, hot as fuck in the D&D movie. Oh, you're talking about the, Sophie, I think her name was. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks so much for your time. I'm glad we were able to disprove his challenge without even trying. His logic is bad, his reasoning is bad, he's mostly self-contradictory, and most of what, like, actual points he tries to make are very, like, two-dimensional in their consideration for how they're actually applied, and for a lot of what he said didn't actually apply to the examples that he was giving. For example, The Witcher was the big one. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be live at 4 for Mert Mart. The store opens at 4, and I'll see you guys in the checkout line over on Twitch. Thank you for joining me. Bye! God, this guy's a fucking idiot, and he learned nothing, will learn nothing, and his apology was bullshit. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.